Hi, I wanted to give my take on some various issues to do with history. I teach, as most of you watching this know, every single week. I'm a qualified archaeologist, master's degree in archaeology, University Highlands and Islands, and I'm a fellow of the Society of Scottish Antiquaries, which I'm proud to say a fellow alongside that name, Eric Talbot, whose name will come up a lot in regards to the work of Blackett and Wilson and also Peterston Super Monton, Eric Talbot, long rest his soul. And I wanted to say again, everyone that has left comments about my videos involving Ross Broderstock, he has missed. His work will go on, and the reason why I wanted to do these little videos was to get reaction and give some answers to some of the things that Ross wanted answers from me about. One of them was about the Roman era. What exactly are my thoughts on that? Well, Romans in South Wales sort of answers that. Some of my videos sort of answers what I really feel. But I want to do a video of that in the near future. And also, one thing that me and Ross did agree on was this fictitious word Celts. Yeah, anyway. One thing that we didn't agree on was this flag behind. The flag of the House of Gwynedd, or Owain Glyndwr's flag. The flag that Ross didn't like from North Wales. And I think it's a flag that represents my sense of Welsh independence and the spirit of independence, rather than a disagreement that I may have had with Ross. But one thing that we were able to disagree and leave it and carry on with something that we may have agreed upon, which was great. This was the conversations that I'd have with Ross. We wouldn't shout and bawl, we'd agree to disagree, and we'd agree on some things. So that's debate, that's proper historical debate. Some people don't like me because I might be seen as an academic archaeologist. Some don't like me because they really don't agree with what I say. One thing that I do massively have in common with Ross Broadstock is that we've got to get the truth out there. And in fact, the risks that I've taken to try and get the truth out there, and the risk that Ross has taken, are something that we very much share, and we don't need to go into that. So what I'd like to do is get some reaction down below in a comment box. Nothing nasty, nothing attacking me, agreeing or disagreeing. And it's a very controversial topic indeed. King Arthur. Yes, I've said it. King Arthur. Now, there are people out there that have very strong views on King Arthur, but there's lots of academics who would dismiss him. I'm one of those in the middle. I believe that there were figures with the name King Arthur out there from the late 400s into the 500s. It was a popular name, and we're told that it's a name that members of the royal family didn't wish to be given. Got a lot of superstition with that, so you don't see a King Arthur alongside a King Edward or a King George after the 1060s. But there were princes, but didn't get too far, did they? However, the ideas about King Arthur are very much within the ideas of the work of Blackett and Wilson, which I do respect, because they went on an edge and on a side of a coin that people really didn't agree with. I've been to lots of the sites associated with the myths, the legends, and the facts and the fiction. You see, I got 4 words there. So some of it I very much believe with the facts. There are fictions. However, the locations are very much alive, and it's the sense of connectedness out there that really makes the ideas of King Arthur real. So this is not my only video about King Arthur in this little series I'm putting together. Basically, it's answering Ross's questions. that he had of what I felt. And another chap called David, you're out there, you'll be watching this. You'll probably be pleased that I've continued on with doing this, sort of getting out there. This is probably, I've managed to get a few videos out this week. That's good. So those places that I've been to that are enshrined in the ideas and actually the embodiment of King Arthur. Merthyr Mawr, yeah, there's one. Peterston Supermontum, St. Peter's Church, definitely. Lots of other sites in Pontypridd. However, that's a little list. What about the site at Pencoed, the cave at Pencoed? The location is very difficult to get to, but it's very much a site. Coed y Muster. I was trying to remember it there. You could see my brain working, trying to remember that. The cave at Coed y Muster. Great. But before I go any further, and I wanted to keep this to a 10-minute recording, so I've only got about 3.5 minutes left. To do with King Arthur, something really echoes. I never really met Eric Talbot. I spoke to him on the phone a few times. But when I went, the reason why I really wish I could have met him, I didn't, with regret. But I met Ross, which I don't regret. Another chap that I remember from years ago is Brian Davis, the old curator, director of the Pontypridd Museum. We used to do walks together. One thing he said to me before I became a qualified archaeologist: look, Carl, why do you archaeologists rip apart history and don't believe it and just tear it apart? Why can't you have a bit of myth and legend associated with it? I've come to understand what that meant. You can have myth and legend that is fact, but not really find the facts behind that myth and legend. It's trying to keep our history alive without it tearing us apart. Those missed coins are those Welsh princes that we know they issued, but they can't find them, bits of evidence out there. All the ideas that we enshrine, going back to King Arthur, could be borne out with some fact rather than the fiction. So one of the things I will say, when as a child, I used to go with my parents, my grandparents, to various locations. And if there was a hole in the ground in a rock, it was always a place that the sword of King Arthur was actually pulled out of. And they may have been right on every single time. And the reason why, in the Iron Age, for example, pulling a sword out of stone, iron, stone, creating a sword out of stone, that's quite mythical, isn't it? That's quite mystical, but it's actually real. You create a sword out of a stone. To master that as a historical figure, if King Arthur, just an idea, chuck this out there. If to be a king, you needed to understand metallurgy to create iron, and you were able to do that, you pulled a sword out of a stone. That's a skill I don't have. And I believe that everyone watching this, other than one or two, none of you can create iron out of stone. That makes you a king. That makes you a leader. That's not dismissing history. That's making the history come alive. It makes history real. So that 10 minutes is nearly up. So we've got to do another King Arthur video. But when you go to Peterston Supermontum, a site that needs to be preserved and protected, you get a feel of something very dark, very mystical, very lost. And the amount of times I've been up there and you've been followed by people, it's not in my head. You get the farmer following you or people following you saying the church isn't over there, or the footpaths are changed and various other weird things. It's odd, isn't it? People don't want you and me and Ross and David and Brian Davis and all these other people, Eric Talbot, none of them want us to go there. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's actually the way it is. So it remains that sense of history and the immense sense of spirit. I've gone over the time now, but I want to say one thing before we finish and come back with me at all the comments in the box down below. And then we'll do another little bit of a video soon about the Romans and that type of thing. Back to King Arthur. But the one thing I would like to say is that how many of you have actually seen the chasm at the back of St. Roch's Chapel at Merthyr Mawr House? St. Roch's Chapel is a folly from the 1800s, put together from bits of old sort of churches and so on. But there's a chasm behind, very deep chasm. And things go bump in the night with that chasm. I've only seen it, I think, twice. And that's by trespassing. Rory McLagan, I've trespassed on your land many times to see the archaeology because it belongs to all of us. So I don't care who knows. Mystery. King Arthur may have been there. Or somebody who called themselves King Arthur. Or somebody very powerful in our past and our history. Was he a Roman general? Was he more than one person? Which I do believe it was. The name King Arthur was a common name back then. And you could have had a king called Arthur being the name, Barehead, being the name of somebody that was here, there and everywhere at the same time, defeating those damnable Picts or those damnable Angles and Jutes, Germanic tribes and Saxons. Defeat a couple of Scots and Irish at the same time. But anyway, so that's my thing. That's my recording today. So everyone keep the spirit of Ross going. Let's keep him talking. Let's keep him around and in us, and let's go from there. Love to the boys and his wife. Let's hear from you. Mystery, legend. Where there's a myth and a legend, there's a fact waiting to be told. And this is mine. This is one of my quotes. Belief is part of the path of enlightenment. Quote, unquote. Come up with that when my life was going really bad in 2007. And it's not now. Anyway, speak to you soon. Take care. Thank you. Like, subscribe. I forgot to say that. Like, subscribe, join, keep the message going. And share this video. Thank you. 1,000 hits. Maybe. Thank you.